In this question, we have to find out consumer surplus, and we have given an inverse demand function. This is inverse demand function, and this is quantity x is equal to 2. We have to find out consumer surplus at this quantity. So first of all, what is the meaning of consumer surplus? It is very simple. Meaning is consumers' willingness to pay minus what consumer actually pays. First thing first, the simplest thing is what he actually pays. This is basically total expenditure on the purchase of this good. This is total expenditure. And how do we do that? We multiply price with quantity. The quantity here is x is equal to 2. You can see here. So first we put this x is equal to 2 into this function. So we get p is equal to 15 minus 2 multiplied by 2 minus 2 raised to power 2. If you solve this, you get 7. Price is 7 and the quantity is 2. We get it 14. So this is 14, but the question is how to calculate this thing, consumers' willingness to pay. For that, we do integration of this given demand function, which is inverse demand function, and we have to do it from 0 to 2, the integration with respect to quantity dx. I explain you how to solve this integration part, and then we subtract total expenditure. But before this, I explain you the meaning of consumer surplus using a demand curve, linear as well as non-linear. So let's jump onto the next slide. Yes, diagrammatically, how we show consumer surplus. Let's see. I draw a demand function, demand curve basically. This is a linear demand curve. We can also draw a non-linear demand curve like this. The function which is given in the question is basically it's a quadratic demand function. On y-axis, on this axis, we take price, and on horizontal axis we take quantity demanded, or to quantity traded basically in the market, how much quantity is traded in the market. This is also like a demand function. So price and quantity. Now first we calculate the price consumer actually pays in the market, and this is determined using the intersection of demand curve and supply curve. This is the point of equilibrium, and we get equilibrium price which consumer actually pays. The total expenditure incurred for this much quantity will be total expenditure will be the multiplication of price with quantity. It gives us area of this rectangle. This entire rectangle is total expenditure, and how much consumer is willing to pay. This is shown by this entire area. I choose different color. You see, this point to then this point to then this point and the entire this area. This is how much consumer is willing to pay, this entire thing. So So how am I saying this is consumers' willingness to pay? Now for that you need to understand the meaning of demand curve. A demand curve shows all those combinations of quantity and the price which consumer is willing to pay for that quantity. This is quantity Q1, this is price P1. This is quantity Q2, this is price P2. Now these prices are not those prices which consumer is actually paying to buy that good. These prices are basically the prices which a consumer is willing to pay for these quantities. So basically this is called marginal utility or marginal willingness to pay, MWTP, marginal willingness to pay. If you do sum total of these marginal utilities, you get total utility, and this sign is nothing else but the sign of integration, summation of mu, or you can say integration of mu. So we are integrating all these things, all these mu's, so we get the entire area of this trapezium. I give this point as A. So trapezium A E Q O. This trapezium is consumers' willingness to pay to buy OQ quantity. This much money consumer is willing to pay. Now I'm going back to that demand function, that demand curve, which is quadratic function given in the question. In this demand curve, we will calculate this area, this entire area by doing integration of inverse demand function. So let's do it in the next slide. So in this slide, you can see I have done the integration part. This is the demand function given to us in the question. And how to do integration of this demand function with respect to x. For that, first you see the how to do integration of x raised to power n. If it's a finite integration, there is a limit 0 to 2, you can see. So the integration of power n is basically x raised to power n plus 1. This you can see. I use a different color. This x raised to power n plus 1 divided by n plus 1, and we put the limit 0 to 2. This is limit, not the power of this thing. This is limit basically. Don't confuse it with the square or the power. No, this is just a limit. So for this demand function, we have 15 minus 2x minus x square. So this 15 means this is 15 multiplied by x raised to power 0, because there is 1 with 15. So that means it is x raised to power 0 minus 2x raised to power 1 and minus x square. So how do we integrate that? This is 15 as it is, x raised to power 0 plus 1, that is this n plus 1, then upon 0 plus 1, this, minus 2 into 2 as it is, x raised to power this 1, so we did 1 plus 1 upon 1 plus 1, minus there is x raised to power 2, so we did x raised to power 2 plus 1 divided by 2 plus 1. Fine. So this is basically now 15x, because 0 plus 1 is 1. This is 15x, 2 into x raised to power 2 upon 2, so 2 and 2 they are cancelled out, minus x cube upon 3. Again the limit is 0 to 2. So if you put x is equal to 2 in this term, the entire integration part, so we get 78 by 3. Because if we put x is equal to 0, that has no meaning. So the integration is 78 by 3. The answer is 78 by 3. So in the next slide, we will calculate consumer surplus. So as I explained you, consumer surplus is basically consumer's willingness to pay, this function 15 minus 2x minus x square with respect to x power 0 to limit 0 to 2 minus total expenditure. So this we have calculated 78 by 3, and minus this we have already calculated as 14. If you solve this, you get 28 by 3. This is consumer surplus 28 by 3. I hope I have made this thing clear to you. I have done my effort to explain this thing. If you guys still have any problem, you can email me. I'll give my email in the description box. You can also comment me in the comment box. I give you again a recap of all the slides which we have. This I show you at 100% or at a 200%. You can see this was the first slide, the question given to you. Sorry, 100%. So this was the question, and we started with this meaning, willingness to pay minus what consumer actually pays. But then we calculated this total expenditure part here, and then I explained you the meaning of consumer surplus. You can see this. These are two different demand functions. One is linear, another one is non-linear demand function. And I explained you the meaning also. You can go back to my video. So this is how we calculate consumer's willingness to pay, and then this is the last step, consumer's willingness to pay, this entire thing minus what he actually pays. So thank you for watching. Bye bye.